And it is time once again for another AEW Dynamite review here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast. Hello, I'm Warren Hayes, and we are going to be, as advertised, reviewing a brand new episode of Dynamite, the 250th episode of AEW Dynamite, nonetheless, that occurred on July 17, 2024. That's what we're going to be breaking down here. We are recording this, when I say we, I mean I, immediately after the show. It's Dynamite just, ended a few minutes ago. Took the dog out for a little, for a little, bladder control. Came back. That's a weird way to put it, Warren. Came back in, shuffled some notes around, and I'm ready to go. I'm doing it, as you all know, usually I like to record these on the day after, on the Thursday. I like to sleep on things. I'm not much of an instant reaction type of guy. I like listening to them. I like, but me, myself, it takes me a little out of my element. I like to sleep on it and think about it and arrive with some poignant thoughts the next day. But that's not happening. I've got a really busy Thursday. Didn't know when I was going to be able to squeeze in the review, and it's episode 250. So we have to look after it. We have to do it. So, that's what we're doing here. By the way, if you're watching right now on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, leave a like. It's your first time here. Subscribe. That would be tremendous as well. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast application, well, you know the drill by now. 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, 5-star ratings on Spotify. Anything you can do to show a little love, a little attention, a little love and attention. Why not go for both, right? A little love and a little attention. Splurge. Just go nuts with your affection. Anyway, it'd be very much appreciated. But yes. Episode 250. I do believe that we 38 episodes from now, 38 episodes of Dynamite from now, AEW Dynamite will have been on television just as long as WCW Nitro. So on episode 30, what'll it be? I don't know, 2089, I believe, right? It's either 38 or 39, but I think it's at 39 at 289. What am I? I'm all over the place already. On episode 289 of AEW Dynamite, Dynamite will have officially been on television longer than WCW Nitro. And I'm sure that'll stick in Easy's craw, and that's fine. More things should be stuffed in the craw of that man. But no, so, people said that this show would that this promotion would fizzle out within 2 years. People said that this promotion would fizzle out within this year. I've heard people say that and earnestly say, by the way, it's not a meme, it's not a joke, but I have heard people earnestly say that probably the best way to save Dynamite from going extinct this year would be to bring in Jinder Mahal into the company. And I kid you not. And no, I promise you, it is not a meme. So, a lot of doom and gloom. We're not there yet, of course. But I think, I'll save all of this for, for the big anniversary, the big outdoing Nitro anniversary. We'll save it there. But there are a lot of people who don't seem to just fathom how successful Dynamite is, because it's not doing business like WWE, which is insane, because WWE is a company that has a 40-year head start and is a billion-dollar company and has been so on and so forth. This is a startup that, is 5 years old and is immensely successful. Only wrestling fans will twist this in a way to say, no, TNA is the actual viable second promotion contender. And you're like, what are people talking about? But yeah, so, the success of AEW is clear. I think it's clear cut. But again, we'll talk about that. We'll take the time to break that down next year. A little over halfway into the year. We'll break this down. But because right now there's 250 episodes where we were celebrating the 250th episode of Dynamite. And I think overall it's a Dynamite that I enjoyed, but I think it's also a Dynamite that is very indicative of where we are right now in AEW 250 episodes in. Like, if this is meant to be like a milestone, a show that is a representation of what AEW is, this is what I gather from it. It is a promotion that still understands what it does best and delivers things. It's able to deliver on great matches in a way that WWE will not do. But AEW, despite the fact that it wants to go all in and be where the best wrestle, it still cannot keep itself from doing the sports entertaining things to let sports entertainment get in the way. That's just how it goes. This was essentially the theme of Dynamite tonight. I can say tonight because I just watched it. Does that make sense? It's this idea that the show. It's this idea that the show that AEW started with such a clear identity, and they know that they can be exactly what it was when it started. Great matches, no nonsense, sports-based presentation. They can do this because they have the capacity and they have the talent. Most importantly, they have the talent to be able to pull this off. And on that front, as demonstrated tonight, AEW is uncomparable in regards to North American professional wrestling. How about American professional wrestling in the US? It's undeniable. WWE cannot and will not put on matches like we saw between Will Ospreay and MJF. They that's just not in their DNA. They won't do it. But 250 episodes in, and AEW still struggles with this idea, with its identity. It still struggles to try and emulate successful things that have happened elsewhere and make it their own. When it works, it works, but when it misses, boy does it miss, and boy does it shake you. And it can oftentimes, and here's the suck part, is that when it fails, sometimes, or most of the time, it just looks like a cheap attempt of what the other guys are doing. And this is the duality that AEW has concocted for itself, and that somehow is this is the duality this is the duality that it's concocted for itself, and it couldn't be more apparent on an episode that serves to be a milestone, where you're like, this is where we're going to showcase the best of what this company can do, and manages to let the thing that it is not the best at, manages to let that aspect of it, that part of its duality, come forth and taint the proceedings, taint what it's really, really good at, what AEW is undeniably good at. And I think, and again, if this is meant as a milestone and as a celebration, as this is what AEW, this is the best foot forward for AEW. I thought we were restoring the feeling, and they seem to toy with my feelings. 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I was sitting here telling you that we had just witnessed an all-time great Dynamite, an excellent edition of Dynamite. And I was stoked to sit here tonight and tell you the same thing, especially as I was watching MJF versus Will Ospreay. My hands were getting sweaty. I'm like, right. Are we on course for Warren Hayes to sit down and get excited once again to break down a Dynamite, to share to the world his enthusiasm? And while I'm in a good mood and I enjoyed myself, I can't sit here and tell you this was an excellent show. I can't, and it sort of bums me out. I can't even tell you necessarily. I'm waffling between great and good. See, this is why I need to sleep on things. Tomorrow morning I would have waken up with some clarity. Right now I'm scattered. I'm thinking of a lot of things. But my gut, look, if I go with my gut right now, I don't know if I can say that this was a great episode of Dynamite, even though there was a great all-timer match on this show. I don't think the show itself was particularly special or inspiring. But look, this is a moment in time. This is, to a certain degree, it's what do you want to call it? A monument, a time capsule. It's something it's a marker that will exist as a milestone for AEW, that maybe when we do reach episode 389, whatever, maybe when we do reach that, we'll be able to look back and see where we're at. But anyway, look, let's get into the show that happened at the Simmons Bank Arena in North Little Rock, Arkansas, not to be confused with Little Rock, Alaska, which is a place. Look it up. Open up Google Maps. I think it would be funny as all hell if anyone were to hold a show in Little Rock, Alaska. I think it'd be tremendous. Let's see here. According to WrestleTix, we just squeezed forward. We just managed to squeeze past 3,000 tickets distributed. 3,051. I mean, it's not great. That's not, it's not good. That's not good. And especially considering how stacked the card was. You know, you had some big matches here. You had 2 big-time matches on this. Considering that it was the 250th episode and was hyped as such, I don't know. The attendance woes continue. What? I don't know what to say. Again, you know, it's like we say oftentimes here on the show. I think that if AEW stuck to what it does best, I should say, which is, you know, great TV each and every week, great matches each and every week, and I don't think they'd have trouble filling up the arenas. But as long as they try to do, you know, discount sports entertainment, and they don't focus on really what makes them different. Again this week on the main podcast on the Mr. Warren Hayes show that was released on Wednesday. I talk about how WWE fans don't want more wrestling; they just want more WWE. So even if you do things that resemble WWE in the hopes that you might draw in some WWE fans, they're not gonna, because that's not what they don't want. Another company, they're gonna look at what you're doing and they're going to lift their nose at it, and it's gonna be like, no, this is second rate, this is dollar store, this is not the great vision of WWE. We can see it, we can feel it. And they're going to hit the bricks. And AEW was never its strength to begin with. I don't know. But enough about that. Show opened up with MJF defeating Will Ospreay to become the new international champion. And look, there is no 2 ways about it. Even though on Cage Match right now, as I'm recording this on a Wednesday evening, the match here is rated at 6.24, which is bonkers. Nuts. This was a great match. I'll tell you right now, 4.5 stars from your boy Warren. I thought this was a great match, and I was ready to go higher. How high? You'll never know. You'll never know. And I think that the finish poisoned the well for a lot of people. And I think this is where ultimately this match becomes extremely divisive amongst fans, because I'm in group chats, I'm in the Discord, I'm in my Discord, Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel Discord thing. Link is in the description. I'm on other Discords, like I'm lurking and I'm observing and I'm looking at reactions. This match divided people. I think the hardcore freakazoids saw nothing but greatness here. They are ready to just like accept this with open arms, you know, and invite this match to Thanksgiving for the next 15 years. You know, completely disregarding what happened within it, and because all they see is the greatness. And on the other hand, I've got people who were shook by the finish and who've lost complete sight that we saw 2 men in peak physical condition to be doing the shit that they were doing for 55 minutes. And you cannot deny that the work here was phenomenal, outstanding, and was on the verge of a classic. This is an all-time match, don't get me wrong. This is one when people are recapping the greatest matches in Dynamite. This is going to be on lists. This is going to be on top 10 lists. I saw people comparing this to Hangman Danielson. I'm okay with that. But people outright trashing this, tossing it overboard, I'm not down with that. I think there are other forces at play here. If you're so easily ready to discount this match and throw it overboard, I think there's other things at play. I think if you're completely discounting this match, I think that you're expecting a certain style of pro wrestling that just does not exist in North America. Maybe you are better served on the Japanese side of things. Maybe you are expecting a Dragon Gate style match, which was, of course, never going to happen, especially when you consider that MJF is one of the participants. This is not a knock. MJF is a North American pro wrestler born and bred. You can't expect them to start going full on Puro style. Let's get real here. And speaking of MJF, I think he's another reason why this is poison. The well has been poisoned for a lot of people here, because there are many folk who cannot stand MJF, and not just, oh, you're being worked. No, who just really don't like him. And who think he's a detriment to this company. When I think it is the complete opposite. Since his return, anyway. I think he has shown last year, over the course of 2023, that he can absolutely be a detriment to the company and to shows that he's on. He can. But how can anyone with an absolute straight face look at this match and say, nah, it stunk, MJF is terrible? I can't see it. I think that's a you problem. And as long as you accept that that MJF matches might not be for you, that's fine. But I really do think that there is a natural dislike among certain pundits hanging around the wrestling media who have a natural dislike for MJF's work. Are there things that I tweak in his work, so on and so forth? Sure. Yes. Minute criticisms, but they are so minute, especially in the context of this match here. Let's talk about the match. How about that? We'll talk about the match and its crazy pace. Look, I think everyone, or at least most folks, looking at the card that Tony Khan announced, we were all expecting this match to go long. I think we were all expecting this match to, cross over, a quarter hour, a 30-minute, like a good old-fashioned 28-minute special for TV, right? Boy, how legit, seriously, how many folks thought that this was going to go almost a full hour? You? I don't think so. Not a lot of us did see that coming. So I can understand when I was seeing, again, folks, when the match was starting off, going, wow, this is kind of slow. It's a little boring. But I'm like, this can't be happening. I'm not going to sit here and make a note that the beginning is weird and kind of slow when I'm feeling it, that they're going to go long and that they're taking their time setting the pace. And boy, did they take their time, because they had nearly just about 60 minutes to go from bell to bell. And they did. And throughout this period, they're setting up stories that MJF is just banging up Will Ospreay. He's just making sure that his legs are screwed, that his arm is screwed, his shoulder's screwed. They're making sure that this story gets across. Of course, that MJF is a heel, and he's healing it up. I cannot tell you how much I missed full-on heel MJF. And again, here's the thing. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but it works for me. It works. And I think there's a lot of what he does is classic old school pro wrestling in his mannerisms and what he does. And yet, a lot of the intelligentsia who usually, are climbing up the walls when people are calling out, when wrestlers do old school things, when MJF's entire act is an updated old school heel act, and they get upset. Like, if I'm MJF, I sort of get it. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? What is wrong with you people? Isn't this what you want? Here, I'm giving it to you. Now, sometimes I feel like I'm on an island when talking about MJF and how great he is, because I feel like everyone else has so many issues with him. I'm like, am I the problem? No, I don't think I'm the problem. I am not the problem. I see what he's doing and I enjoy it. I like it. Again, I'm not expecting MJF to wrestle like he's out of Dragon Gate, or to treat every one of his matches like he's out of Dragon Gate or AJPW. I'm not expecting that. I feel like he's the perfect encapsulation of a top North American pro wrestler. A guy who has charisma, can talk, is entertaining, plus is a great worker, as he's shown tonight. And yet somehow he cannot incur the favor of so many people who will nitpick and pick apart. Oh, why did he do that face here? Who cares? Who cares? He did a face, and as he's doing the face, he's getting Will Ospreay is diving from behind him, and he's about to eat a hidden blade, a diving hidden blade. And the shot from TV is perfect. What is it gonna take? What's it gonna take? I don't get it. I thought his heel work was great. Yes, it's a little hammy, but that's what he is. And I'll tell you one thing, I much prefer MJF, healing it up towards the crowd, being hammy to get people to hate him, than the opposite, doing, brochacho stuff and kangaroo kicks. We'll get to the kangaroo kick in this match. But that makes me happy. That speaks to me. And then on the other side of this match, you have the greatest wrestler alive right now. You've got Will Ospreay, the greatest wrestler alive, one of the all-time greats. Some people even say perhaps the greatest to ever do it. We're on that level, and we're sitting here and we're bitching. We're bitching about a finish. I wasn't even at the finish yet. I was still trying to get through this match. I mean, MJF is doing all the heel things right, and he's, he's avoiding stuff, and he's trying to get Will Ospreay into moves, and Will Ospreay's like he's avoiding the heat seeker at first, and and does a slingshot cutter, and then does a Sasuke special, and then Will Ospreay does a second rope moonsault into a standing moonsault, and MJF dodges both, but then Will does a standing shooting star press, which connects in a nice tight little sequence. And I'm like, already. And in the meantime, I'm seeing people going, I don't know, man. I don't understand. I don't understand why people aren't up on their feet. You're looking at this going, this is tremendous stuff. He's doing the moonsault into the standing moonsault, just like a real Latino man does. But unlike a real Latino man, he follows it up with a standing shooting star press, which was tremendous. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this. I'm like, again, Will Ospreay makes me wonder why, despite the fact that he and I are both human, why is he so different than I am? Why is it? I don't understand. And then he follows it up with the sky twister. After he does the standing shooting star press, goes up top, does the sky twister. We got tables put into play. Got reversals. MJF fakes tweaking his knee so that he can sucker Will Ospreay into a pile driver, and then MJF gets a control segment and a critical one with the figure four, which Ospreay is in for a long time. He reverses it for a bit, but it's not significant enough. The hold is maintained, and Ospreay basically eats a lot of shit in this match. He eats a lot of issues, and his leg suffers, and this becomes apparent. He gets Irish whipped and he can't follow through. They eventually fight into the crowd after MJF exploits the knee. They fight into the crowd, which was fun. Will Ospreay gets a little girl to beat up on MJF, high fives her, and she was like jumping around. She was going like that was nice. That was fun. I think it was Taz saying, "Oh, we don't recommend people going after pro wrestlers. It's a little girl. It's fine, Taz. Look, I understand what he's saying, but they get back into the ring. There's a crossroads by Will Ospreay, reversing out of one that MJF was trying to do. Cradle DDT by MJF. And then we get a Styles Clash right on the apron, which was phenomenal, pun intended. And at this point, MJF has been working over Will's arm, so one of his arms isn't great. So when they get back in, Will does a one-armed last ride powerbomb. During the commercial, Doc Samson pops Will's shoulder back in, sure. And then we get the spot that I was talking about where MJF is on the floor and he's gloating to the camera saying, I'm the smartest wrestler alive. And the camera just picks up Will Ospreay diving through the ropes with a hidden blade. I'm like, this is awesome. It's just tremendous. Get an avalanche Styles Clash. We also had a phenomenal forearm earlier on. Full-on tributes to AJ Styles going. I know Will Ospreay always peppers some in, but I felt like it was particularly underscored tonight. We get a heat seeker on the apron by MJF. Then he puts Will Ospreay on the table. They had been building to the table spot. With, one guy putting the other guy on the table and then the guy rolling off and then doing it again and rolling off. And then MJF goes up top and does a diving elbow drop from the top rope through the table on the floor. Phenomenal. Great spot. Great visual. Extraordinary. He does a power bomb on the knee. MJF. And then he counters an avalanche poison Rana by sort of just like landing on his feet and shrugging it off. Then almost immediately after does an avalanche Hurricane Rana to Will Ospreay, who just flips through the air and lands on his feet. And I'm like, all of this rules. And again, then I saw people go, oh, look at MJF's stupid face. Look at what just happened. What is... There are things... Look, I am the first to get annoyed when wrestlers are doing things and then they stop to mug, to do goofy faces, to do NXT face, to monologue. I get it. But most of the time these things happen when I point them out, when I'm annoyed by them, is because the match isn't necessarily coming together. The match is not special. I can put up with MJF going, oh, he just landed on his feet, didn't he? Face. When the rest of the match has just been phenomenal. It's such a minor detail that it doesn't bother me. Now, if the match had been slow and plotting and nonsense already, I'd be like, all right, this is all dumb. But it's not. It's not. It doesn't take away. It just gives us the moment. It gives us a moment to let the move sink in. And instead of taking in what just happened, Will Ospreay countering a top rope Hurricane Rana by spinning on himself and landing flat on his feet. Oh, look at this guy's stupid face. I don't know, man. Then we get some strikes. They're not done. And we are so far into the match at this point. And this is the shit that they're doing. And we're going to talk about MJF pulling stupid faces. How does this make sense? How is this how we talk about pro wrestling now? When there's incredible athleticism happening and just astounding moves happening 45, 50 minutes into a match that has already been physical. Why are we sitting around grumpy pants with our arms crossed over our chest asking ourselves, why is MJF doing stupid NXT faces? I don't understand. It does not register with me. Not when the action that is happening is so incredible and is a testament to the condition and the talent of these two men. Two men, what am I talking about? Two top guys, two of the best in the world, two world-class pro wrestlers. Will Ospreay avoids the top rope tombstone, the avalanche tombstone, which was used to paralyze Daniel Garcia. MJF eats a hidden blade to the face. And then, now here's the part. Here is the thing. Look, the finish is very controversial. A lot of people are upset about it. I'll tell you what made me upset here. I'll tell you what is keeping me from going 4 3/4 or even a 5 on this. It is the part where Will Ospreay wants to do the Tiger Driver 91 but doesn't hesitate. I don't care, but hesitates, excuse me. He does hesitate. I don't care that MJF used the Dynamite Diamond Ring to get the win. Couldn't care less. In fact, makes perfect sense. In fact, I was expecting it. I was like, this is going to end with MJF cheating. And that's what he should do. Big match, coming back as a heel against one of the top guys in the world. Of course, MJF is going to do it. I was primed for that. I was ready, and it happened. But the one thing that I find is a little less forgivable is this Tiger Driver 91 nonsense. Let's recap the Tiger Driver 91 nonsense, shall we? He does it on Kenny Omega last year, right? Was it at Forbidden Door? I don't remember which one I think it was at Forbidden Door that he did it, right? And then the safety police on Twitter lose their brains and they're like, oh, this is the most dangerous move ever. So they lean into it. And Will Ospreay sort of does it, teases doing it, and it's promoted as a dangerous move because the safety police don't understand how pro wrestling works. So then we get to the match with Danielson earlier this year, and Ospreay uses it, and the thing here is that he beats Danielson with it, but Danielson is quote-unquote injured, and Ospreay has a crisis of conscience in this tremendous 5-star match. There's this crisis of conscience at the end where he's like, should I do it? And then the angle afterwards is, I'm retiring the Tiger Driver 91. I don't want to do it. But throughout his feud with Swerve Strickland, leading into the most recent pay-per-view to Forbidden Door this year, the idea was, Will, you don't have the killer instinct. You won't be able to do the Tiger Driver 91 when the time is going to come because you don't have the killer instinct. Well, he didn't hesitate. And you can go back and watch the tape. Will did the Tiger Driver 91 on Swerve Strickland and was driving him down, and it's Swerve that wriggled out of him. As he's being driven down, Swerve is wriggling out of it. You can go check the tape. I'm not making this up. So I was looking at this saying, all right, so we're done with the Tiger Driver 91 thing, which we should have been done with regardless. Look, he was acting as if he ended Brian Danielson's career. I'll get his name right. Ospreay was acting like he ended Brian Danielson's career by using the Tiger Driver 91. When in fact, Danielson was back a couple of weeks later, and next thing you know, he's doing Anarchy in the Arena. Okay, like if I were Ospreay, I would have been like, so the move's not that bad. Yeah, I'd be like, okay. And that was rational and made sense to me when he pulled it out against Swerve, because on two fronts, because of Danielson coming back, but also because Swerve egged him on to do it, right? He was taunting him, you killer instinct and all this stuff. But then, I think it's on the following Dynamite, Don Callis is talking to him and he's like, or they're talking to each other, and it's brought up again when Don Callis and Will Ospreay are talking to each other, and it's brought up that Will hesitated on the Tiger Driver 91, but he didn't. He did not. So I'm sitting there, and I talked about it on this review. I said, why are they retconning this? We saw it happen. Will did it. It's Swerve got the hell out of Dodge at the last possible second. And it turned out to be a tremendous spot. But now we're still bringing that story. Now Will is still hesitating. So right then and there's no continuity. I kind of hate it. We're retconning things that have clearly happened. And now Will has a lot of qualities, but emoting an emotional conflict is not one of his strengths. So as he's got MJF locked up for the Tiger Driver 91, he's doing these faces, right? He's doing those as he's trying to muster the courage to do it. But he can't. For some reason, he can't. And the only reason that he's not doing it is for pure storyline reasons, and they're ignoring what happened at Forbidden Door, and that doesn't jive with me. And this is what I'm saying, like when I talked about at the start of the review, when I'm saying AEW has this duality, this personality conflict between its two sides, like a mini wheats, where you have the wheat side, the brand side, and then on the other side you have the sugary coating. They don't know how to coexist in the case of AEW. On a mini-wheat, it's fine. But in the case of AEW, they don't know. They don't understand. They don't come together. They don't jive. They don't mesh. So I'm watching this and I'm like, why is he doing this? And I said it out loud. This is stupid. So he can't do it. And then there's a ref bump. And then MJF uses the Dynamite diamond ring to knock out Will Ospreay. The ref comes too. Gets the win. I really wish that the hesitation on the Tiger Driver didn't work. Wasn't there, actually. Excuse me. Let me say that again. I really wish that Will Ospreay's hesitation on the Tiger Driver 91 at the end of this match wasn't there. I wish it wasn't there because right now it is a goofy storyline that is getting into the way of great matches. Now it's getting in the way. Now it's keeping me from cheering on this match to the high heavens. I'm going to have to caveat this throughout. And yes, it did bother me enough to keep this away from a potential match of the year for me. I don't know. I don't know. What would have been the finish without it? I couldn't tell you. But this took me out of the match. Not MJF's goofy faces. Because this impacted the match. This had a direct implications on how the match was executed, and the flow. Everything in this final stretch, with a final stretch that lasted 10 minutes, was so good and hard-hitting and smartly done and athletic. And then we do this. I'm like, oh, come on. Now, did it bother me to the point that I'm going to bury this match 6 feet under and call it shit? No. Because for 58 minutes previous to that, these two guys put on an extraordinary example of well done North American style pro wrestling. Spectacular, well put together. I loved this match. And I do think it's great. And I think it could have been greater had it not been for that. Again, I don't even mind that MJF wins with the Dynamite Diamond Ring. That's his thing. But interrupting the match, the flow for this crisis of conscience that honestly doesn't even really exist. That doesn't make sense that it should still exist in canon, in AEW. That they're just ignoring what's happened. We got to tell this story. This is the story. This is the story. Now, I'm not a dummy. Contrary to popular opinion, what my dad thinks, I'm not a dummy. I know what they're doing with this. They're going to rematch MJF and Will Ospreay, and I still think it's happening at Wembley. I still think they're going to go again, and Will is going to pull out the Tiger Driver 91, and he's going to hit it on MJF, and he's going to win his title back, and everyone's going to explode. It's going to be a huge pop. Everyone's going to be like, he did it. It's tremendous. And I hope they do it soon, because it is an impediment to my enjoyment of Will Ospreay matches, something that I never thought I would ever say about a Will Ospreay match, not at least over the past 2 to 3, 4, 5 years. Never thought I'd say that Will Ospreay is doing things in his matches that are causing me to not like them enough or as much. A tremendous match. I'm still looking at this on Cage Match, and I'm refreshing ratings on Cage Match. 6.54 on Cage Match. I get it. This is going to be a divisive match, but people have to. I don't know how people rate these matches. I don't know how they go into it. I don't know how this goes. I just broke down 58 minutes of a terrific match that cannot be just discarded because MJF bad. You know what I mean? You can't do that. The visuals of MJF at the end with the oxygen mask is tremendous. It's just tremendous stuff. Both of these guys are tremendous. Can you imagine the condition these guys are in? I don't know what to tell you. Is this an unpopular opinion? I think I'm being super fair. Am I supposed to bury this match? I can't. I can't outright tell you this match stunk. It didn't. It is the opposite. But I really feel like MJF gets in the way. I really feel like it gets into the way. And MJF, look, I want you to think about this. MJF right now in this company, the guy who likes to tell us he's not a work rate guy. He does, he wants the night off or whatever, This is the guy who worked a 60-minute Danielson match. Now he just worked a near 60-minute Ospreay match and a 38-minute CM Punk match. Now you tell me. You can buy his shtick or you can look at what he's doing. People, I think, are way too harsh, extremely harsh on MJF. Way too hard. I think I'm okay with matches being divisive. But Hey, and just like the opening match, we spent 52 minutes talking about, well, not the whole 52 minutes, but we're at 52 minutes in and we've only talked about one match really. So let's let's cover the rest of this show here. I got everything. I patched everything together pretty quickly. So bear with me as I go through my notes here. We go backstage to the Acclaimed who are talking to Mark Briscoe to get them to join Team AEW for Blood and Guts. And Mark says it's a good idea. Then Swerve comes in and, he addresses that, Swerve and the Acclaimed in the past, didn't quite see eye to eye, but, they're the ones to do battle with. So here we go. And I don't know about next week's Blood and Guts, folks. Thank God Darby is in this. Thank God Mark Briscoe is in this. And Swerve, I'm super excited to see what Swerve is going to do here, but I don't know about the Acclaim, man. I don't know about this Blood and Guts match. I don't know. I don't know. But then again, look, if I turn around, like right now, if I'm like, oh, well, and we get some, we get some, we get these guys in the ring and, my expectations are low. All it can do is go up, right? Right? I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. This might be the first Blood and Guts that AEW has put on where I'm like, I don't know. Then we get TV time with the Learning Tree. This all leads to, Chris Jericho's doing some shtick where he says, I was on most episodes of AEW of Dynamite 250. You know, I was here for the first one and on most episodes of 250, which got a chuckle out of me. But what made me laugh out loud is when he said, and I'm going to be on every episode of Dynamite moving forward so that we, for the next 250. And I got a huge laugh out of me because I know there are people who are legitimately mad at him saying that and at the idea of him being on every Dynamite. But this all leads to Minoru Suzuki showing up, taking the red eye to get to taking the red eye to get to Little Rock, Arkansas. Minoru Suzuki. And here's another thing. Here's something very interesting. And you know, he comes out with the New Japan logo, right? You got the lion mark on his Tron as he's coming out. Minoru Suzuki is not a New Japan pro wrestler. He's not on the roster anymore. It's kind of like, I think they stopped doing it with Shibata, right? But Shibata is officially like in the AEW Ring of Honor universe, right? Minoru Suzuki is not, like, he's not a wrestler. He's not, officially on the roster, but he wrestles a lot in AEW, but he doesn't wrestle in New Japan anymore. So we can stop pretending that he's a New Japan guy. He's not. It's fine. So, he basically, he comes to the mic and challenges him for next week. He's got a paper that Brian Keith reads off to say basically that the learning tree is that he and Big Bill are banned from ringside. And it's all happening next week. No, that's fine. So we got Blood and Guts and we got Jericho versus Suzuki. How about that? Then we go backstage to the Young Bucks and Kazuchika Okada cutting a promo. And Mercedes Moné shows up. They cut a promo hyping Blood and Guts next week. And Mercedes Moné comes in thanking them for having banned Britt Baker from the building or whatever, or from the backstage area is what I think is what she said. And Kazuchika Okada gets all hot and bothered when she shows up and asks her to do her goofy little dance, and somehow that makes him all hot and bothered. Here's how do I feel about Kazuchika Okada right now in AEW? I think he's shown immense versatility in AEW. I think he has a surprising amount of comedic timing. I think he is enjoying what he's doing in New Japan. I feel like he not in New Japan, in AEW, as opposed to when he was in New Japan, where he's been doing the same thing for like 3 years, and he feels a lot more impassioned now. He feels animated, whereas in New Japan towards the end it was kind of like brr, you sort of wonder, was the old bitter man act, was it really an act at that point? Anywho, so on that front I enjoy it. But is that what we're going to do with Kazuchika Okada? We're going to have him ogle Mercedes Moné and she's going to dance for him, and all this is weird. It's a weird thing, and it turns. He's doing Rodney Dangerfield. He didn't have a tie, he wasn't adjusting it, but it was the same thing. He's doing these mannerisms, and I'm like, oh, I'm hot, or whatever. Oh, my God. But then it's, it worked. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Then we got Mercedes Moné versus Nyla Rose. This is fine. This is a fine match. I mean, Nyla's not the greatest worker in the world, and besides, this wasn't the point. I don't think the point was to give us a 5-star match. It was, the idea here was for Nyla to work as if as if she was the dominant one because of her size, the weight difference, the size difference. And this is how they worked it, Mercedes working from underneath, and it was fine, I enjoyed the spot where Mercedes does the lockjaw, and she pulls out the glove, and the glove has nails on it too, and CEO, nice little. These are heel Mercedes Moné touches where I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm all in on board with this kind of stuff. I think it's great. And then she does the lockjaw gimmick, but she does it wrong. So Nyla Rose is able to bite down on her, which I thought was nice. But then she goes into the bank statement and whatever it is she calls it. What does she call it? I don't remember what she calls it. The bank statement, whatever she calls it now, with being the CEO. So then after the match, she tears up a sign from a fan at ringside who is wearing a Sting mask. So right then and there, Mercedes, you should watch more tape. You should know by now that someone in the audience with a Sting mask is usually a wrestler, and she shoves Mercedes down. The person in the Sting mask, I should say, it's Britt Baker. She unmasks and she lunges for Mercedes, but security pop in to keep everyone away. This is fine. You want to keep building to the match? This is absolutely okay. This is what you got to do. We get a recap of Mariah May's attack on Toni Storm from last week. Then Jack Perry is backstage. He says he's talking to Darby Allin. He's cutting a promo on Darby Allin, and he's telling Darby that, you attacked Brandon Cutler. I don't give a shit about Brandon Cutler. And it just so happens he's been beating up Brandon Cutler and beats him up some more on TV. And he's going to say, and then Perry says, come and meet me in the ring, you coward, tonight, which absolutely 100% alerts us all that there's going to be shenanigans in the finish, because we're doing this Darby stuff with Jack Perry later on tonight, and there's one segment and one match left, so you could all see this. This was a little telegraphed. So Mariah May comes out. She comes out to Toni Storm's full entrance, and she's dressed up as Timeless Toni, and people are fooled, but it is her. And she cuts to the promo. She goes to the ring and she cuts a promo. And I think it was a little bit of a disappointment. There was one line where she says, what did she say? She says, I've never loved you more. She's talking to Toni Storm. She said, I never loved you more as when you were on your knees, bleeding and begging me, or something to that effect. And I'm like, okay, that's good. I like that. That's vicious. But I think as a follow-up to the angle, it's a miss. And Mariah's delivery felt very rehearsed, especially since she was getting some very organic reactions from the crowd. The crowd was ready to tear Mariah May to shreds. Now, I understand that her coming out as Toni Storm sort of full circles the All About Eve thing, all right? The movie, right? I understand that. But I cannot help but wonder if it would not have been better if she had just come out, in the same gear, or, with the pumps that she had, and maybe that she was tearing at Toni Storm's head last week, and maybe they're still full of blood. Like, maybe there's something that could have, because it's sort of her coming out to Timeless Toni sort of threw everyone for a loop. I think she should have just come out and just been real savage instead of this very poised. Like, she hit her spot, she hit her mark on the hard cam side of the ring. There you go. Finally was able to say it. Good job, Warren. And she didn't move. Did you notice? She just stayed there immobile, and she's getting really hot reactions from the crowd, but she's not playing off them. She's sort of pausing, looking around, but she really could have leaned into it more. Is it inexperience? Maybe. Is it because she really had this scripted promo? Because it felt like a scripted promo. The cadence, the delivery. I'm like, it could have been more alive than this. It could have felt more organic. Now I felt it was like I felt like it was in a box, and we got the thing delivered out of the box, if that makes sense. I don't know. I don't think it was a home run, especially considering how much of a grand slam that promo was that ending angle of Dynamite was last week. Didn't live up to it. And, they really could have done this in a way that wasn't as, I don't want to say contrived, inorganic. How about that? The Bang Bang Gang, they do the thing with Collision where the Bang Gang get their titles stripped. Look, now's the time to just throw caution to the wind, folks, at AEW, and just have trios matches every week with a bunch of random dudes every week, and put your fucking luchadors on TV. They do this all the time. And have some fun. You don't have to protect these titles like they're your world title. They're the trios titles. These titles were being clamored by AEW fans 2 years ago, when every week on Dynamite you had these great trios matches, these great multi-person matches, and everyone was like, AEW needs trios titles, it's going to be amazing, it's going to be amazing. And then when you introduce them, and after we're done with the Best of 7 series, they become the blandest titles on earth. And everyone's like, what are they for? What are we doing here? You don't have to protect them. Just go. Just have people drop them every other week or every 3 weeks. It doesn't matter. Just stakes for people to get into a ring and have a crazy ass match. That's all. And then we had Swerve Strickland versus Kazuchika Okada that ended in Swerve Strickland defeated Okada by DQ, a rare DQ. They're still rare DQ finishes in AEW. Or but I sort of feel like recently we had another one not that long ago. I think they're becoming infrequent. We're on a slippery slope here. And when I look at everything else that they try to do to emulate the other guys, this is one thing that they can absolutely emulate. More and more DQ finishes. I'm not a fan. Look, I thought the match was fun. Good little match, and for what it's worth, I gave it 3.25 stars. Does anyone really care? It was a very short match. Lands a backpack neck breaker. Okada does, and an elbow drop. Strickland fights back, eats a drop kick, does a great backbreaker and into a power slam, a super impressive move. He hits the swerve stomp from the Rainmaker, just great stuff. And then the Young Bucks show up and everything goes to hell. Now, am I disappointed that the match ended this way? Yes. Was the angle afterwards hot? Yes, it was. It was a great angle to end the show for a blood and guts, which I kind of feel is not all that hot. I don't think it's hot. I don't think people are buzzing about it. There's, the idea of putting Team AEW together could have been a really fun angle, but I think, look, like I said, I think everyone's excited that Mark Briscoe is in this. I feel like there's a lot. Let me put it to you this way, because I don't want to do sweeping statements, and I'm on the verge of, and I want to be careful. So I'll take it down this path instead. I feel like there is a lot of fatigue when it comes to the Acclaimed. Now, they might just turn up next week, show up, and put on a performance that we have never seen them do before. Like, it is a blood and guts match after all. And maybe suddenly we're going to see, the hardcore beasts, right? Because when you look at Team AEW, you're like I said earlier, you got Mark Briscoe. He's a shoo-in. Like, he's going to do batshit insane stuff. This is his wheelhouse. You've got Darby Allin. You want to talk about batshit insane? Here we go. Swerve is in here. I'm very curious to see what Swerve is going to do, because I think he can thrive in any type of situation. He's had tremendously violent matches with Adam Page, and look who's on the other side of this. Adam Page showed up. He even came out to confront the champion. So, like, the outliers here, it's this feud between the Young Bucks and the Acclaimed where I just shrug my shoulder. If I shrug my shoulders any higher, I dislocate them. I'm like, all right, let's just get it over with. It is something that I could not be less interested in. Honestly. But yeah, they had to do something like week after week. It was just like teasing and, who's going to be in Team AEW? And I don't think it was all that compelling. I don't think it was a compelling build. This match is kind of cold. And I'm also not a super fan of the authority figure Bucks and all this stuff. So, I'm kind of like, I'm not brushing the match off, because I still want to see how all these pieces are going to come together, but I can't help but shrug a lot, actually. And Darby Allin, suddenly becoming a full-on Sting and being lowered from the rafters was something. That was, honestly, it was pretty cool. Not something you see much anymore. It used to, not that it happened very often, but was, infrequent. You'd see that. People being, but, for all the reasons that that we know, people stop doing that. And it works for Darby. It makes sense with all this Sting stuff and whatever. And it's Darby. So, if there was anyone who just doesn't give a shit, and he'll just do anything, it'll be him. As long as, I'm sure everyone did this safely and smartly. Right? Hopefully you'll say the same thing about this review, that it was done safely and smartly. We're going to wrap it up, actually. We're going to head on the old dusty trail, and there you go. Thank you very much for watching this to the very end. Hope you enjoyed it. Give it a like on YouTube and some reviews and ratings on Spotify and Apple and all over the place. Just, boost my ego a little bit. I'm coming back this Saturday. This Saturday is the beginning of my daily G1 Climax 34 coverage as the biggest tournament in New Japan starts this week. I will be reviewing every day. I will be providing results, analysis, reviews. I'll be doing it all. And I'll be doing it all for the entirety of the tournament. So hopefully you will be around to watch that. join me, be a part of the G1 festivities here. It's an interesting one this year for New Japan, so I'm pretty excited. I'm excited to see how things are going to shake down, and hopefully you'll be on my side for that. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. That way you won't miss a thing. And you do the bell gimmick too, right? Whatever. Listen, if you're not into the G1 stuff, that's fine. I'll be back on Tuesday for another live recording of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show at 7 p.m. Eastern. Other than that, thank you all very much for being here.